Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you notice something different about me, well, I permed my hair, but that's not the focus for this video. So actually, I wanted to film this video since a long time ago because a lot of you guys are planning to move to Singapore and are looking for information about how to set up your life upon moving here. One of the most important topics would definitely be apartment hunting, which could sound a little intimidating, especially if you're not physically in Singapore yet. But don't worry about it. In this video, I'll cover all you have to know about renting in Singapore by walking you through my own process. But before that, just to give you a little more context if you're new to my channel, hi, my name is Adrian. I am currently working in Singapore as a digital marketer in the tech industry. I moved to Singapore last August after finishing my last year at Northwestern University in Chicago. And the apartment I'm staying in right now is actually my second place in Singapore. Initially, I was living in an individual room within a shared apartment. So yeah, I've actually spent a lot of time and effort researching and looking for rentals in Singapore. So hopefully my knowledge and experience will be able to help you during this process. Alright, let's get started. Before we get into the details of apartment hunting, here's a crash course on renting in Singapore. If you're looking for a place to stay, most likely you will end up in one of the following types of housing. The first one is HDB flats. HDB stands for Housing and Development Board, which is Singapore's public housing authority. HDB flats are subsidized public housing where the majority of Singapore's population lives. There are usually more units on each floor, and you can see this long corridor that connects different units. But public housing here doesn't mean that the property follows low standards or isn't well maintained. They tend to have amenities such as a playground, a lot of benches on the ground floor where people sit and chill, and they tend to be closer to the bus stops to provide greater accessibility. Comparatively, renting an HDB flat is more cost-friendly, especially if you're only renting a room within an entire HDB flat. The second option is condominiums, which is actually where I'm staying in right now. Condos are private housing, so they are owned and developed by private property companies. Condos usually come with more facilities such as swimming pools, gym, barbecue area, jacuzzi, tennis court, etc. There will be security guards to ensure the safety of the property despite the fact that Singapore is already a pretty safe place in general. Because of the additional perks provided, condos are usually more expensive than HDB flats. The next category is landed houses, which include those beautiful shop houses on the street. However, because a landed house is literally a house, it's definitely more expensive and may not be suitable for single working professionals. So personally, I don't know anyone who stays in the landed property, but if your budget allows, just definitely give it a try. Additionally, there are options like service apartments, which is basically like staying in a hotel for an extended period of time, but of course, you expect to pay a larger amount of money. You can consider co-living, and that's also a great option for people who value a sense of community and want to socialize with people upon moving to a new country. I'll elaborate on this later in the video. One important thing to know about renting in Singapore is that right now the rental market is extremely competitive based on what I've seen and heard from other friends of mine. Because a lot of expats are moving back to Singapore after the travel restrictions were lifted, and at the same time a lot of young Singaporeans are moving out of their parents' house for greater independence. So the demand is just super high. Therefore, the rental prices have also spiked up considerably. For example, for a studio apartment that cost 1,200 Singaporean dollars last year, you may need to pay closer to $1,500 if you were to rent it now. And good apartments will usually be snatched within several weeks or days after it's posted online because there are literally so many people fighting for the same place. So act fast and don't get shocked when you are searching for apartments at this point of time. Okay, hopefully you've gained a basic understanding of renting Singapore by now. So let me elaborate on what specific factors I took into consideration when I decided on which apartment to pick. In terms of budget, it really fluctuated a lot because initially I didn't have much idea about what people normally pay for rent, but after doing some research, I came to the conclusion that 1.5 to 2.2 is the range I'll be willing to pay. So if I were to rent a common room without an attached bathroom, 1.4 is the most I want to pay. If it's a master bedroom, my max will be 1.8k. And if I end up getting a studio or one bedroom apartment, my limit could technically go up to 2.2k if I really like the place and on the condition that I really save up on other expenditure categories. Since I'm moving to Singapore for the first time, I don't want to go through the hassle of buying furniture and setting up my home while adapting to the new environment. So I want the place to be fully furnished and in good condition, so there won't be any renovation work that I have to do. Also, I want to be close to public transport, so I want the place to be located within walking distance to MRT stations, ideally Circle Line or Downtown Line, so it's easier for me to get to work. I'm also a huge fan of natural light, so I want the place to have huge windows and unblocked views. And then I'll prefer less congested areas because I think I'm actually quite introverted, so sometimes I just don't want to be surrounded by people, which is the reason why I intentionally avoid areas like Geylang, Farrer Park, and Orchard. Those are my key requirements when it comes to evaluating whether an apartment is good or not. Now I'm just going to walk you guys through the entire process of me getting an apartment. In terms of the overall timeline, I received my job offer last May and I officially moved to Singapore in August, so I have around 3 months to find an apartment. However, when I started my search in May, I didn't really find any good places because most of the time the listing will say available immediately or available within 2 to 3 weeks. So my conversation with the agent always ended as soon as I brought up the fact that I want my lease to start at least 3 months later. So I think 1 to 2 months is good enough for you to start browsing for apartments and reaching out to agents. Also, it will save you a ton of time if you know which areas you want to stay in. So it's important to familiarize yourself with Singapore's geography. Key things to consider: 1. Where's your office located or where's your campus if you're a student? 2. Whether you want to stay in CBD areas, which are the yellow regions on this map, or you want to avoid areas with heavy traffic such as Punggol, or you value proximity to restaurants and bars, so places like River Valley and Tanjung Pagar will be a good choice for you. And 3. Whether your budget matches with the average rental price level in that neighborhood, because there are more expensive areas like Town Lane, River Valley, Botanic Gardens, but there are also more affordable areas such as the North and City Fringe. After all the preparatory work, you can start looking for apartments. The 2 most common websites are 99.co and Property Guru. And actually I found both of my apartments in Singapore on Property Guru, so yeah, it's a very useful website. You can filter for location, property type, price range, build year, and even keywords you're looking for. Sometimes there'll be apartments that are listed on both Property Guru and 99.co, but I think Property Guru tends to have more listings in general, while on the other hand, 99.co has this function that allows you to draw a certain area over the map for you to narrow down your search based on which neighborhoods you like. If you see any listings that you're interested in, you can just save it and organize them into a list so it's easier for you to compare them later on. Aside from these 2 websites, you can also join some Facebook groups such as Rent Room in Singapore, Property/Rooms for Rent/Sell Singapore. There are also a lot of good listings from both the agent and even current tenant who are living in Singapore and wants to re-rent their place to somebody else, and they'll usually be more willing to offer a better price in their circumstance. I know some people also use Carousel to find their apartment, so feel free to try that out as well. Then you can start messaging the agents to kick off the initial conversation. If you're using websites like Property Guru, you can just click on the button which prompts you to send a message template to the agent on WhatsApp, and that's the most common way compared to email. I also send a profile of myself to the agent with information like my occupation, nationality, type of pass I'm holding in Singapore, expected moving day, preferred lease duration, as well as budget. This was something new to me because I never had to send this information when I was looking for apartments in the US, but the agent will use this information to evaluate whether you're a good fit for this place, especially given the fact that some landlords do have particular requirements of the tenants. After that, I follow up with some questions to clarify on things that aren't specified on the listing itself, such as whether utilities are included in the bill, whether cooking is allowed, and what amenities are provided. Also, I requested the agent to send over a video of the apartment or floor plan so I can better visualize the apartment layout and see how much sunlight the room is getting. Another important thing to check is what the neighborhood looks like. So I use Google Maps Street View, which is a great function because I can literally see if there's any highway around the property, whether there's a lot of restaurants, and house or greenery. Because of COVID, most agents will offer you 2 different ways to tour the apartment. When I was searching for my first apartment in Singapore, I happened to be visiting my family and friends in China, so I couldn't tour the place in person. Alternatively, I scheduled a video conference call with the agent, and she just basically walked around the apartment with a phone in her hand and introduced the amenities as well as house rules to me. This is extremely important than only seeing some photos or videos online because it gives you a candid, unfiltered view of the entire place. During the tour, I also highly recommend that you pay attention to the noise level as well as the cleanliness of the place because these are things that you may not notice from the description itself. If you are able to do an in-person viewing, it's 100% the most ideal scenario because it gives you a better understanding of the place, like the smell, details, as well as the surroundings. This is actually what I did when I was looking for my second place in Singapore. I will arrive at least 30 minutes in advance so I have enough time to walk around the neighborhood to see if there is any eateries, especially if there's any hawker centers around because that's gonna save you a ton of money. Also, make sure to check out if there's any malls, bus stops, or construction sites because trust me, you don't want to be around construction sites. When the agent showed me the apartment, I would take a look at the walls and ceilings to make sure there's no water damage. I would examine the furniture to make sure they're in good condition. I will also open a window to see if the ventilation is good. Last but not least, try to avoid west-facing windows because that basically means that your place is more likely to remain hot for most part of the day. After you feel like you've toured enough apartments and found one that you really like, you can start negotiating with the agent. Most of the time, the price on the listing itself is way higher than what the owner is actually expecting, so try to slash the price by 15 to 20% without going too crazy that pisses off the agent. At the same time, you can raise some requests to the owner, such as if it's possible to replace the mattress, if the owner can buy a TV to be added to the inventory list. There's always room for negotiation no matter how competitive the market is. And speaking from my personal experience, I was able to cut several $100s from my rent after negotiating with the landlord. If both of you come to an agreement, you will need to sign a letter of intent, which is the document for both you and the landlord to make sure that the other party is genuinely interested in this deal. Although a letter of intent only outlines a preliminary agreement between you and the landlord, and not all landlords will ask for it, providing one is important as it signals your interest to the landlord. On the other hand, the landlord will also stop showing the apartment to other prospective tenants after receiving the letter of intent from you. Along with the letter of intent, I was also asked to submit a good faith deposit, which is the equivalent of 1 month's rent. This will form part of the security deposit if a tenancy agreement is eventually entered into between the two parties. So, tenancy agreement. It is the official signed rental contract between you and the landlord. It serves as the master agreement that specifies different rules, obligations, and responsibilities. It's usually 8 to 20 pages long and can be modified if you or the landlord proposes different terms. Some main things to pay attention to on a tenancy agreement include warranty period, which is provided by the landlord to repair any damages found during the first 30 days of taking over the apartment. If you sign a 2-year lease, it's more likely to contain a diplomatic clause, which goes into effect if the tenant has to leave the country due to job transfer or termination. It requires that the tenant stays at the property for at least 12 months before it becomes applicable, and allows the tenant to terminate the agreement before the original end date. It adds an extra layer of protection to all the expats working in Singapore because you definitely don't want to continue to pay for rent after you relocate from Singapore to some other places due to unforeseen circumstances. Also, make sure to pay attention to topics like air conditioner cleaning, such as who should bear the cost and what is the maximum fees to be charged, as well as the inventory list, which specifies all the fittings and fixtures at the time of the handover. Upon signing the tenancy agreement, you need to submit your security deposit and in some cases, advance rents of 1 to 2 months. I know the legal work may have seemed a bit complicated and stressful, but after you finish this step, you are basically done with your apartment search process. Then you just have to discuss with your landlord when you want to officially move into your apartment because the landlord will usually be there during the handover process as the witness. On your moving day, make sure to take photos and videos of the entire place to record the conditions of different furniture pieces, walls and ceilings. Try out all the appliances to make sure they are in good condition. If you're staying at a condo, please also ask your landlord to send you a resident handbook as it contains information and instructions on how to book and use of condo facilities and stuff. So that's pretty much it about apartment rentals in Singapore, but as I mentioned before, there are some options that kind of reduce the amount of stress you have to deal with during your apartment search process. For example, there are a number of co-living agencies here in Singapore that provide easier, faster, and more flexible ways to rent comfortable homes at honest prices. And I would like to introduce Cove here in the video, as it's one of the largest co-living agencies in Singapore that aims to upgrade from the traditional rental process. Cove has a bunch of properties ranging from individual rooms to studio or 1-bedroom apartments at multiple hotspots around Singapore. You can view room listings and do a VR tour on their website at your convenience and chat with your friendly team for recommendations. You can also enjoy living with other like-minded people and community perks provided by Cove. Compared to traditional rentals, which requires you to stay in a contract for 1 to 2 years, Cove offers much more flexible lease options with a minimum duration of 3 months. I also got a chance to visit one of their awesome apartments in Singapore's downtown area, and I absolutely love how they furnished the place. As soon as I entered the building, I was immediately impressed by its modern, aesthetically pleasing design, as well as the smart use of different colors to create a warm, welcoming atmosphere. In addition, you don't have to worry too much about the move-in or move-out process, as Cove is always willing to assist you to make sure you have a wonderful experience throughout your stay. If you have any questions or concerns about staying with Cove, you can just go on their website as it provides detailed explanations of a variety of topics. In addition, there are a bunch of photos of different properties provided on their website, so it's very easy for you to browse their listings and find the place you like. Also, their website is just so beautiful and user-friendly that further elevates the experience. If you're interested in learning more about Cove's properties, you can watch by clicking the link here. So please remember to check out the listings on the websites and use the code down in the video description to get some additional discounts off your rent. And a huge thank you to Cove for sponsoring today's video and providing so many great options for people who are looking for somewhere to stay. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video and learned something useful from my personal experience. I know that apartment hunting must be a bit scary, especially if you're moving to a new country and starting a new chapter of your life, but that's the reason why I've been making videos, because I want to make this process easier for you guys, and I'll be really happy if you can give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment below, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. It will help my channel a lot and allow me to continue producing great content for all of you guys. And I guess that's gonna be the end of today's video. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!